Let me paint you a picture. It's 7:42 p.m. on a Saturday night, and I'm standing in the middle of an overpriced steakhouse in New Haven, Connecticut, pretending to care about the texture of someone's mashed potatoes. I'm wearing a tuxedo, shirt that smells faintly of garlic and despair, and the soles of my shoes are soaked because the dishwasher overflowed again. That's right. This is the glamorous life of a waiter. My name's Kevin. I'm 28. I have a liberal arts degree from a school no one cares about, and $67,000 in student loans that haunt my dreams like a Victorian ghost. I live in a shoebox apartment, with 2 roommates, one who vapes and one who owns a snake. I'm single, broke, and slowly developing carpal tunnel from carrying filet mignon to men who call me boy, even though I've paid taxes for a decade. And then he walks in. You know the type. White collar, white teeth, white hair, but in a sexy, silver fox way, like he paid extra for each follicle to age with dignity. His name is Douglas Monroe. I only know that because his name is engraved on his credit card, his cufflinks, and his ego. He's the kind of guy who wears a watch that costs more than my yearly salary and acts like tipping 10% is some kind of philanthropic gesture. He comes in every few weeks, usually with some junior executive or real estate puppet, ordering the same. Dry-aged ribeye and making the same soul-sucking small talk about golf and private equity and fiscal dominance. The guy's a hedge fund manager, read legalized pirate with a country club membership. This particular night he comes in with a date. Blonde, tan, 26 if I had to guess, with the dead eyes of someone who learned to laugh at finance jokes for survival. I try to ignore them, focus on refilling the breadbasket and reminding myself I'm saving up for writing classes I'll probably never take. But Doug, he's got a talent for noticing weakness. He calls me over mid-conversation, doesn't even pause when I arrive. You know what I miss? He says, still staring at his date's cleavage. Good help. Men used to take pride in being servants. Now they just loiter in restaurants and pretend they're too good to bus a table. I blink, smile, nod. Default waiter setting. Of course. Sir, would you like another Malbec? He waves his hand like I'm a mosquito. Just bring the steak, medium rare, and tell the chef not to fuck it up this time. This time. As if last time I seared the damn thing, I bite down the 1,000 things I want to say and just walk away. But something snaps inside me. Not loudly. Not like a crack, more like a tear in cheap fabric. Quiet. I keep serving, keep smiling. But something in me is different after that night, and then it gets worse. The cherry on the shit sundae? After his meal, he calls the manager over and says, I was rude, that I hovered too long, that I breathed on his date. The manager, Mike, a former used car salesman with a clipboard fetish, gives me a friendly warning. That's his phrase, not mine. Friendly, like a firing squad with a hug. So I do what any self-respecting, underpaid, emotionally wrecked waiter would do. I look him up. Turns out Mr. Douglas Monroe isn't just a hedge fund ghoul, he's also a proud father. I find an article in Connecticut Style magazine, because apparently that's a thing, featuring a glowing photo of Doug with his daughter at a gala fundraiser for orphans or sick puppies, or whatever rich people pretend to care about. Her name is Lila Monroe. Brown hair, green eyes, smile like a toothpaste ad. She goes to Yale, studies art history. Of course she does. Probably thinks being poor is having to Uber pool. That's when the idea slithers in. It doesn't come fully formed. Not at first. More like a whisper. A flicker. But it stays. And every time I get treated like a human napkin, that flicker burns a little brighter. What if I dated her? What if I got under Doug's skin the way he got under mine? What if I smiled across the dinner table at the same man who told me I wasn't worth the air I breathe, and this time he couldn't say a damn thing? Of course it sounds insane. It is insane. But insanity is relative, right? Like tipping culture. So I start showing up at the Yale Art Gallery. Nothing weird, just walking around, learning the lingo, posing like I give a shit about 19th century, brushstrokes. Eventually I see her, in the cafe, wearing a beret, because of course she is. She's sketching something in a leather notebook like she's starring in her own indie film. I sit nearby, Pretend to read the New Yorker someone. Left behind. Wait, she spills her coffee. Not on me. Not even near me. But I spring into action like it's a 3-alarm fire. Here, I say, offering napkins like a hero in a grocery store romance. Rough day, she laughs, tucks her hair behind her ear. I'm an artist, she says, like it's a diagnosis. We talk. She's smarter than I expected. A little pretentious, sure, but who isn't at 21 and wearing $400 shoes, ironically? I play the part, the thoughtful blue-collar guy with deep feelings and a tragic past. I mention my love of Camus. I reference Van Gogh. I say late capitalism with just the right sneer. She eats it up. We meet again. And again. Coffee turns into brunch. Brunch into walks. Walks into kisses in half-empty bookstores and long glances across park benches. She asks what I do. I lie. Sort of. I work in hospitality, I say, which is technically true. I leave out the part where I mop vomit out of stall 3 on Friday nights. She talks about her dad. I pretend I've never heard of him. I start dreaming about it. The day, she brings me home. The look on Doug's face when he realizes his only daughter is dating the waiter he humiliated. I want him to squirm. I want him to choke on his $300 Cabernet. I want him to know what it feels like to be small. Petty? Maybe. But I've spent my whole adult life being the help. The guy who blends into the wallpaper. The man who speaks only when spoken to. And now? Now I've got a plan. It starts with Lila. It ends with Douglas Monroe, and I'll make sure every second in between is dipped in irony and served cold. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I prefer mine medium rare, with a glass of vintage Cabernet and the tears of entitled men. After a month of dating Lila Monroe, I find myself sitting on her restoration hardware couch while she tells me how her favorite uncle made his fortune investing in pet crematoriums. I nod sympathetically, feigning interest, while inwardly wondering how anyone with that kind of background doesn't burst into flames from sheer karmic imbalance. I'll give her this. Lila is endearing in the way trust fund kids can be when they're trying really hard not to seem like trust fund kids. She wears thrifted cardigans that cost more than my rent, and she talks a lot about meaning. As in, I'm just trying to find meaning through sculpture, or doesn't that piece speak to the transience of meaning in late-stage capitalism? I don't roll my eyes. I smile. I listen. I play the game. And it works. Before long, I'm no longer just the guy who charmed her over spilled coffee. I'm Kevin, the tortured working-class intellectual who reads philosophy, quotes poetry, and sees the world differently. Never mind that I work a double shift every Sunday slinging prime rib to men who look like her father. Lila believes I'm a diamond in the rough. That's what she called me once, like I was one Aladdin reference away from a copyright lawsuit. And then it happens. The invitation. We're having a small dinner, she says one night, brushing a stray eyelash off my cheek like I'm made of porcelain. Just my parents and a couple of close friends. I want you to come. My heart seizes, not from romance, from bloodlust. I keep my expression neutral. Your parents? She nods. You'd love my dad. He's intense. But underneath, he's just a big teddy bear. Right. A teddy bear that mauls people's dignity for sport. I agree to go, of course. What kind of villain would I be if I missed the third act twist? When the night arrives, I wear my best shirt. Clean, pressed, not too obvious. I even shave. Something I usually reserve for funerals and court appearances. Lila picks me up in her white Audi, and I pretend not to feel like a mailman being chauffeured to the gallows. Their house is a modern mansion in the hills, all marble and windows and statement pieces that look like a toddler attacked a pile of scrap metal. With glue, there's a fountain in the foyer. I kid you not, a full-blown fountain indoors like we've time-traveled to Versailles. And then I see him, Douglas. Same smug face, same silver hair. He's pouring himself a whiskey and laughing with a man in a Rolex I mentally nickname Finance, Chad. He turns, eyes me, and for a second I swear his brain hiccups. I smile. Lila beams. Dad, this is Kevin. I extend my hand. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Monroe. He takes it slowly, like it's covered in something infectious. You say Dave. Look familiar, he says. Do I? I shrug. I get that a lot. I have one of those faces. He doesn't let go immediately. His grip tightens just enough to register a threat. A warning. I keep smiling. Dinner is catered, of course. A private chef rolls out courses like edible sculptures, and the guests ooh and ah like they've never seen food arranged by tweezers before. I sip wine I can't afford and laugh at jokes I don't find funny. I answer questions with just enough mystery to make them think I'm hiding a deeper intellect rather than just dodging the fact I spent my morning plunging a clogged toilet. At one point, Douglas brings up politics. The thing about the working class, he says, swirling his scotch like it contains secrets, is they don't want to improve. They'd rather complain than hustle. That's why this country's declining. I glance at Lila. She's nodding, politely, probably used to this kind of drivel. I resist the urge to break a butter knife in half and jab it into his steak tartare. Instead, I say, interesting. I suppose when you're raised without struggle, it's easy to confuse survival with laziness. He blinks. The room goes quiet for a beat. Then Lila laughs. Kevin's just being provocative. He's great at that. Douglas smiles like he's chewing glass. Checkmate, asshole. After dinner, I help Lila with the dishes, because of course no one else does, and she kisses me in the pantry while her mother complains about the caviar being too peasant. And in that moment I realize I'm in. I'm officially the boyfriend. The blue-collar nobody who's managed to slip through the gates of privilege like a cockroach in a Prada bag. Over the next few weeks, things escalate. Brunches, gallery openings, Sunday lunches where I have to pretend to enjoy kale frittatas, and listen to her mother discuss the traumatic ordeal of remodeling their guest house. Douglas watches me constantly. He hasn't figured it out yet, but he knows something's off. His instincts are like a banker's nose for blood in the water, predatory and precise. One afternoon, he corners me on the patio. You know, he says, swirling his bourbon as if it holds moral authority. Lila's had a habit of picking the wrong men. I nod. Must be hard, being that loved. He frowns. What do you want, Kevin? I sip my coffee. Honestly, just a chance. To do what? I look him in the eye. To be part of the kind of family I never had. His expression shifts. He doesn't buy it, but he doesn't know what else to say. He walks away defeated by politeness. Lila, bless her oblivious soul, starts talking about the future. Vacations, moving in. Maybe even introducing me to her grandmother, who has a sharp nose for liars, whatever that means. She buys me clothes, offers to help with my resume, tells me I'm too good for hospitality. I play it humble, tell her I just need time to figure myself out. In reality, I'm too busy figuring her dad out, because the final move is coming. The moment when I make him see, when I show him that all his money, his control, his self-importance, none of it matters now. Not when the person he worships most has chosen me. Not a fellow rich guy, not a Wall Street clone. Me, the lowly waiter, the disposable nobody, his daughter's lover. One evening, we attend a charity gala together, one of those tuxedoed affairs where people pretend to care about underprivileged kids by drinking champagne and buying abstract art. Lila looks like a dream in black velvet, and I wear the suit she bought me, tailored to erase every trace of my past. We mingle, smile, pose for photos, and then it happens. She introduces me to her father's biggest business partner, a man named Harold Lang. Lang is the kind of guy who owns a vineyard in Sonoma and thinks waiters should be seen, not heard. But he doesn't recognize me. Why would he? To him, I was always just another shadow refilling his water glass. Douglas watches us from across the room, tense, nervous, sweat beating at his temples despite the air conditioning set to Arctic winter. I lean in to shake Lang's hand and say, with the perfect amount of sincerity, "It's an honor, sir. I've heard a lot about you. He chuckles. Hopefully good things. I nod. Your reputation precedes you. Your generosity, too. It's subtle, elegant, sharp enough to draw blood, but dull enough to pass unnoticed. Later that night, Lila clings to me like a romantic cliché, murmuring things about how her father is finally warming up to you. I smirk in the dark, stroking her hair, because warm is a step away from boiling, and boiling is where things break. You know that scene in every mob movie where the guy walks calmly into a room full of people who tried to bury him alive, smiles, like a priest at a christening, and then pulls the trigger? Yeah, this is that scene. Except I don't carry a gun. I carry something worse. Truth. It's a Friday night, one of those sterile cocktail parties at the Monroe estate where everyone drinks imported wine and pretends their lives aren't empty. Shells padded with cashmere. Lila drapes herself on my arm like a silky scarf, glowing, oblivious. She thinks tonight is special. She thinks I'm going to propose. I did let her believe that. Douglas is by the fireplace, dressed like old money's idea of casual. Beige sweater, smug face. He watches me like a hawk that just realized the rabbit it caught has fangs. Perfect. After. Hors d'oeuvres and more sycophantic laughter than I can stomach, I tap my glass with a fork. The room hushes. Every Botoxed brow turns in my direction. Sorry to interrupt, I say, smiling the kind of smile that makes people nervous. But I wanted to take a moment to thank the Monroes, especially Doug. People chuckle. Lila squeezes my hand. She's vibrating. I've learned so much from you, I continue, about hard work, ambition, and hypocrisy. A ripple goes through the room. Douglas stiffens. Lila blinks. See, when I first met Doug, I was working at that overpriced steakhouse downtown. You remember, right, Doug? You ordered the Wagyu. Rare, and told me to go wipe tables like a good boy. Silence. He didn't recognize me, of course. Why would he? I was just the help who watched him berate his server because his mashed potatoes had too much truffle. Nervous. Laughter now. Some people think this is performance art. Others realize they're watching a man pour gasoline on a legacy and flick a match. I remember standing there, humiliated, thinking, this man gets everything. The money, the house, the respect. And I get minimum wage and a sore back. Lila is frozen, pale, her grip loosens. So I came up with a plan, not just revenge, elegance. I wanted you to feel what I felt, Doug. Powerless, small, beneath someone's shoe. I look straight at him. And what better way than to make your daughter fall in love with me? Gasps. Literal gasps. It's like I just kicked a corgi in front of the queen. Don't get me wrong, Lila's lovely, sweet, very committed to helping the whales or whatever. But let's be honest. If her last name were Garcia, and she lived in a studio above, a vape shop, you wouldn't have looked twice. Lila lets out a noise, somewhere between a gasp and a broken sob. Her mother drops her champagne flute. And Doug. I step forward now, closing the distance. You brought me into your home, sat across from me every Sunday, tried to intimidate me, failed. And now? Now the boy you spat on is the man your daughter sleeps with. A woman faints. I swear, Douglas's face is crimson. His jaw clenched so tight it might crack. I played you, Doug, like you play your little investment deals. But I didn't do it for money. Or fame. I did it for dignity. Then I pull out the envelope. This is a photo, I announce, holding it up. Taken last week. It shows Doug at the Westfield Suites, room 307, with a woman who is not his wife, who is, in fact, a 24-year-old escort named Tiffany who, fun fact, used to be a waitress, too. I toss the envelope onto the coffee table. People swarm it like flies to a corpse. I figured if I'm burning this bridge, might as well nuke it. Lila's crying now. Her mother's shaking. Douglas looks like he wants to leap across the room and strangle me with a piano wire. But he won't, because all eyes are on him, and reputation matters more than rage to men like him. I turn to Lila. I'm sorry, I say softly, but not for what you think. I'm sorry I used you. You deserved better, a better man, and definitely a better father. Then I walk out, past the gasps, past the silence, past a dynasty crumbling in real time. 6 months later, I live in a tiny studio now. Cheap rent. No view. But the air smells like freedom, and the walls don't whisper Monroe at night. I bartend at a jazz club part-time and write petty little essays about capitalism on the side. They go viral sometimes. People eat that shit up. Last I heard, Lila moved to Paris to find herself. Douglas? His firm took a hit. His wife divorced him. And the Tiffany photos? Leaked online. Front page of every business tabloid for a week. A scandal, a fall, a reckoning. Beautiful. Sometimes people ask me if it was worth it. The whole long con, the heartbreak, the shame. I always say the same thing. Absolutely. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Maybe even better. Because nothing tastes sweeter than justice served cold, unless it's watching a rich man choke on his own words at his daughter's engagement party. Bon appetit, bastard.